Hi, I'm Norman Van Aken, and if you're watching this right now, you know that I cook, but it's how much I love to cook and why I cook the way I cook that I want to tell you about. I got started in the restaurant business when I was 13 years old. Got drafted by a buddy of mine. We went and washed dishes and bussed tables at a Holiday Inn in Illinois. I got fired after a New Year's Eve where I dropped an entire tray of dishes down an elevator shaft. I thought that ended my career, but I went on. Took a few other jobs in the meantime. I was construction, did some landscaping, even sold flowers and worked in a carnival once. But then I answered an ad and got a job at a place called Joe's Fireside in Libertyville, Illinois. There was a gigantic pretend milk bottle on top of the building. It was kind of famous for that. And I worked there for a while, and it was great, and I really liked the people, and I really liked the energy, but like many 19-year-olds, I got wanderlust. I decided to take a little cruise down to Key West, Florida. And everything changed after that. This was my personal Margaritaville, to be sure. In the early 1970s, you couldn't beat it. After hanging out for a little while, I finally had to get a job, which I did, a place called the Midget Bar and Grill, 24 hours, great burgers. Started working in other restaurants in town, too, and began to see all these different ingredients. Throughout the 70s and 80s, I got more and more into developing my skills as a chef and focusing in on the strength of our region of the country. I read what few books there were back then. I talked to the cops or barbers that sat in the stools next to me in the little joints, and I asked them to tell me more about the menus or foods from older days. I actually was kind of sheltered within the womb of Key West. There were not a lot of additional influences to spin me around. There was no great pressure to do continental food. The world has changed so much in the last 20 years, and naturally our cooking has changed too. Once upon a time we cooked French food, or we cooked Italian food, or Chinese, or Japanese. Now we can cook all these things simultaneously. That's one of the elements of New World cuisine. I hardly imagined when I was working the hotline back in Key West days that I would be here cooking in my own restaurant named Norman's, my third cookbook on the way, cooking on Good Morning America, doing posters, doing a line of retail products. But this has all been made possible by New World cuisine. That's what's so wonderful about New World cuisine, in fact. The possibilities are endless. By the way, here's some examples of what we've been doing with New World cuisine other than putting it on a plate.
If you want to learn to do more than just boil water, you might be a big fan of the Food Network. Now, its most popular chef also owns 3 restaurants and just released his second cookbook. Anna Esqui caught up with Emeril Lagasse as he was cooking up a storm with another prize-winning chef, Norman Van Aken.
You know the movie Steel Magnolias along the banks? That's Natchitoches. And they're famous for these little meat pies, and this is my little kicked-up version of it.
Okay, you do
and how
your
about
meat
you?
pie. I'm going to do a little chowder. You know, down here in South Florida, we like our conch chowder. I'm going to do it my style with a little Cataifi-wrapped shrimp.
All right.
Food, glorious food. It's edible art for these 2 masters of the kitchen.
It's a New World holiday feast. It's the flavors of South Florida, our multicultural area that we live in here.
So what do you mean by New World, though? Like Columbus came to the New World?
Yeah, when Columbus came here, they started calling this the New World, although there was, you know, the Indians were here, but there was an exchange between Europe and North America and then South America, and Miami sits like this beautiful little jewel right between all those different areas, and the people who live here really have this confluence of foods and flavors that are so bright and colorful with fruit and fish that abound, and so we cook this sort of food that is healthful and bathing suit food too.
Let's get started. What do you want to show
Well,
us
that
first?
first thing on your left, Paula, is what we call a shocking pink limeade, and it's made with prickly pears, which is this guy right here. And you could pour that on crushed ice or in a champagne flute. That's a non-alcoholic beverage.
Are you sure about that?
Today it is.
They've thrown down the gauntlet.
I've never
All right.
cooked pasta before. Yeah, right.
Sympathy vote. Sometimes that works, you know.
I had pasta at Patria once, I believe.
Norman, what do you have in mind?
Well, the scallops are definitely they're going to be the center of this particular dish because they are the greatest expense that Anne has gone to getting our ingredients right here. But she also brought one of my favorite things in the world, which are these Peruvian purple potatoes. Potatoes come from Peru, and these are natural. When I cut open these, some of your guests will have seen them, but this is the way God makes them. There are black potatoes in Peru as well. So
these are awful pretty. All righty, all right. I think we've got at least some idea of what they're going to do. All right, audience, you've got to help me out. Ready, set, cook!
here we are on 8th Street, better known as Calle Ocho. This is the street that runs through the heart of Little Havana, and once a year, it looks like this.
Over 1 million people come each year to Calle Ocho Street Festival to salsa, drink, and more importantly, eat. On a typical day, if you stroll down Calle Ocho, you can catch the action in Domino Park, watch Havanas being rolled the old-fashioned way, and grab a pick-me-up at a sidewalk Cuban cafe.
Ah, good stuff.
Little Havana is also the perfect neighborhood to find the fixings for a traditional Cuban holiday dinner. We stopped in at Palacio de los Jugos.
And finally, the New World. New World cuisine, that is. That's the name for a new style of cooking coming out of Florida. You'll find it at such upscale restaurants as Norman's in Coral Gables, where Chef Norman Van Aken tried to clear up any confusion about this fusion food.
We have Caribbean, Central and South American, all these things sort of conspiring here in South Florida to bring a flavor profile that's like unbelievable. It's the best in the United States.
So, put that frozen food aside, you snowbirds, and fly to South Florida, where there are all sorts of restaurants that'll let you enjoy your own New World Order.
One thing you know for sure, that food is hot, hot, hot. Still ahead, kick off the weekend country style with the sounds of BR 549 as Good Morning America continues.
What's more 4th of July than barbecue and beer? Well, how about shrimp in your beer? That's what happened when we asked this year's James Beard Best Chef in the Southeast, Norman Van Aken of Norman's in Coral Gables, to give us some tips on whipping up a gourmet backyard feast for the 4th.
One of the things that really is wonderful is shrimp cocktails. So we're going to take and make a shrimp boil. Now, it doesn't mean we're going to make the shrimp boil. We're going to make a shrimp boil, if you follow me. To make a shrimp boil, you just take a bunch of seasonings like this, also known as a crab boil. It's got allspice, coriander, and bay leaves, and chilies, and it's very, very aromatic. You can buy that at the store just like that. Then you take a couple of really pungent vegetables, like fennel here, and drop those in. And I've got two different kinds of onion, because onions have different flavors. Red and white have different flavors. You could use one if you want. And you could just pop those in. Lemon always goes well with shrimp. So we'll just pop that in there, give them a little squeeze. Got some fresh garlic. Just give it a little rough chop. The more you chop garlic, the more flavorful it is. So if you smash it up in a garlic press, it really gets strong. But if you leave it kind of big like this, the flavor is more mild if you like it mild. Beer, this goes well with shrimp. So we're making our shrimp boil here with some warm beer, which we're going to get even warmer by boiling it here to really get the flavors going. Okay, we got our shrimp boil going here. It's been going for about 20 minutes, so the flavors are nicely integrated, and you just want to drop them in there and give them just a quick stir so they're not sticking together. And let that come back to a boil, and some people will count to like a minute after it comes to a boil, but the best thing to do is to have enough shrimp to where you can take one out and check it yourself. Okay, we're going to pull the shrimp out now that they're cooked, but then drop in the ice water there, and they'll chill down. And that'll shock them, and you want to get them out of that ice water as quickly as you can so you don't lose the flavors of the court bouillon. The vein is down underneath this part of the shrimp, and so to take it out, you just want to make a little line right here, and you'll either sometimes see a big red vein or you won't, but here we barely have any vein at all. So just take that and strip it so it looks nice and pretty, and then we can go ahead and set them up and keep them cold until we're ready to serve them. Working down in Key West, the Bahamian black people down in the village make this thing called souse. And souse is sort of like a marinade, but like a vinaigrette. And it's got lemons, limes, garlic, olive oil. You could put chilies in it. This little bag right here has got some different spices in it, like coriander. And we could take our shrimp and just dip them into the souse mixture and keep them cold until later, and you'll even have more flavor than if you had your boiled shrimp and shrimp cocktail. Steak is a lot about what America's about. So this is a 4th of July steak. This is a T-bone steak. You see the T shape right there. This is the strip steak on this side, and this is the filet. This is a beautiful piece of meat, and what you want to look for in here is this little flecks of marbling. It's the marbling on the inside of the steak that keeps it naturally juicy. Now to make that juiciness go just a little bit further, we're going to take some olive oil, and I've got a mixture of chopped herbs here, rosemary, basil, thyme, sage. These are all herbs that work really beautiful with meat. Just enough to really moisten the herbs, and just stir those around, and a little kosher salt, and freshly cracked black pepper here, and just mix that up, and just put that on the steak. It wouldn't be the 4th of July without corn. I'm from Illinois, and that's corn country, but Florida's become corn country too. You can cook them when they're still in the husk. when you soak the husk for maybe a half an hour ahead of time and then put them on the grill, or you can take them off the husk them as it were. And what I do is I grill the corn before I'm going to grill the steaks, let them rest in the oven for a few minutes or stay warm in the oven, because I want to cook the steaks, take them off, let them rest for a moment, and then serve. I don't want to be cooking anything else after. This is our backyard pretend, our faux barbecue. So we're going to put a little bit of oil here, and you want to hear that sizzle because that shows you that we're really smoking. Really smoking. Now we take the steak here, and we just go ahead and slap it right smack in the center of the pan, and we want to hear the sizzle. We want to leave it alone for a second because that chars the meat, locks in the juices, and makes the steak what it's supposed to be. Great. Okay, grill marks rule. You got to have good grill marks, so we're going to put those down like that. The mark of a good grillman is his grill marks. 4th of July is about freedom, but when it comes to great steaks, you got to have it my way, which is charred, medium rare, or rare. Now that's a T-bone steak right there, so we're going to just feel it. And when we feel it like that, that's how we know if it's done or not. If it feels like it's the firm part of your hand, about right here, then we know it's cooked. If it feels kind of dead, like the very inside of your hand like that, let it cook just a moment more. And remember, the steak is going to continue to cook a little bit after it comes off the heat. It's going to ride up the hill to a little bit more doneness, so you got to play the curve a little bit on the steaks. Here we've got hash browns, which I grew up eating in the Midwest, but with South American potatoes, boniato, and Peruvian purple potatoes, along with our sweet potatoes. And we've got these already blanched off, so they're pretty much cooked with some Scotch bonnets and a little bit of cilantro and garlic. But we're going to go ahead and put those into the pan here and let those cook up and crisp a little bit. You have your steaks on the grill, your corn's on the grill, even your potatoes, which are already pre-cooked a little bit, can go right into a pan on the grill, so you're out there like the sauce boss himself. So there you go. Okay, we're not in the backyard right now, but we are having a good time celebrating our independence with shrimp and souse cocktail. We've got our grilled T-bone herb marinated steak with barbecued hash browns and corn on the cob. And of course, we got some vanilla ice cream with strawberries and old balsamico and a little bit of bubbly to wash the whole thing down and celebrate the independence with. Happy 4th of July, everybody.
Not a bad idea, huh? Well, if sweating over a grill in South Florida's heat is not exactly your idea of a good time,